new banner?
I created that one. The one, it's got like the stars in the background. I think we're live. Are we live?
I should check.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We are live.
I think we're live.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, let me get this set up. Make sure that.
Hello, Lisa. Lisa's first in. Lisa Lyons.
Hi, Lisa. How are you? Okay.
Johan. He'll always come on same time as Aluna. Oh boy, it's Aluna Ash Live. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
So many people are going live tonight. You just can't, unfortunately, time it where we're not on at the same time.
I know. Are we, is the view right side by side? I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
We got
everything good. All right. Okay. So I did put some messages out on Facebook, and a bunch of people said that they were going to show up. So hopefully
I'll share this to my Facebook as well.
And so we'll see. I think Shannon Kling said that she was going to be here, and Melanie said that she
Melanie's, is it?
Not Melanie Weiser, Diane or something like that. I might be saying it wrong, but that's okay. All right. So hi, you guys. We're going to be talking about letting go tonight. So it's going to be an interesting topic. Trisha and I were actually talking about what our topic was going to be about. And as we were doing it, I was kind of talking about some of the things that had happened to me in the last week. And she started sharing some stuff. And in the process of this, we were like, wow, this needs to be the topic. So we were basically decided on doing that. Hi, Robin. How are you doing?
Yeah, because originally I was thinking about, although it is a bit of a heavy subject, about grief, because we've just had someone pass in the family. And I know grief isn't just about someone passing. It can be a breaking up of a relationship, friendship. But then we decided, no, it feels a bit heavy, and the letting go seemed more apt.
Right. Absolutely. So you guys, is there anybody in here that you don't recognize that's new?
Not so far.
Okay, good.
Hi, Tim. Tim's here.
Hi, Tim. How are you doing? You guys, appreciate you showing up. We're going to be talking about letting go. Just going to give it a couple more minutes to see how many people. If you guys have not subscribed to Trisha's channel, make sure that you do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. Also, too, we really appreciate it if you click the like button. That would be great. And Trisha's running a special right now. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that, Michelle. All numerology profiles are buy one, get one free. And I did have mine handy. I better put it in the drawer. I did do I've made a video, if you go on my channel, and it shows you, I actually printed a copy off because I've shown it on the computer, but I don't think you can get the full grasp of how many pages you get. Hi, Shannon. 38 pages plus for your numerology profile. And where have I put mine? I think I put it in the drawer. Sorry about this. I didn't think to have it handy. It just gives you a better idea of actually how much content is. So they buy one, get one free till the end of September. So I saw Denise posting that she was on about getting one with her and her friend. So in theory, either her friend gets one free or they get one half price, if they split the cost. So anybody, you could go halves with a friend. So in American money, it's roughly about $60 for two. So that's $30 each.
Oh, wow. That's actually a really good deal.
That's about £22 in the UK. I mean, and it's lifelong information. My neighbour next door, just quickly, she spent £80 10 years ago on virtually the same thing. I nearly fell off my seat when she told me. And I have seen somebody on YouTube, a lovely lady who's a numerologist. She's selling them for over 100, I think it's £150.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, you did this for me, and there was a lot of work that was put into it. I was just like, holy cow, this just goes on and on. I mean, there's a lot of information on there. So I think it's worth, doing.
And it's lifelong. I mean, your birth names are never going to change. So that information, even if you change your name after having it done, the core birth names, that information will never change. So it's still going to be relevant. So thank you, Paul.
Is Ellie one of your moderators on your channel?
I can't remember. She may be, but she is somebody you can trust. Yeah, she's from my Facebook, I think, originally.
I'm saying this right in front of Ellie. Sorry.
Yeah, no, she's cool.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had a couple of moderators because the ones that I usually get aren't here yet. So
Big P99, that's Big Paul. He's in the UK. He's a regular. I think he's trustworthy. He's another Life Path 9. Robin's another Life Path 9. Hi, Robin. And yeah, just show you my hands quickly. Sorry. While Michelle's doing that, I just had a bit of a girly night tonight, and I had this one done. But I'm thinking, because I don't have tattoos, I actually think one would have been enough, but I tried two. So they're really cool. Just thought something a bit girly. Awesome. Oh, she's Camille on Facebook, yeah.
Oh, yes, I know who Camille is. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I've kind of figured that I recognize Camille Love or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was with us. Hi, Iowa. Yeah, I thought I'd go a little bit different for change.
Yeah, it looks really pretty.
Yeah. I just thought it looked cool doing some card readings because I need to do the rest of September and start October. So I need to get them done while I've got this on. Anyway.
All right, you guys. Let's see.
Let's share that while Michelle's doing what she's doing.
I guess you want one. All right. Okay, you guys. So here we go. I guess we can go ahead and get started. It looks like hi Iowa. How are you doing? I'm surprised Anton hasn't logged on yet. Usually,
yeah. He's probably lurking. He's probably watching. Hi, Anton, if you're watching. He's probably watching.
Yeah. Okay, you guys.
If he's not at work, he could be at work. I don't know.
Yeah, Robin, I just promoted you as well. I don't know if you saw that or not, but all right. So you guys, here we go. Let's go ahead and get started on this. So we were basically having a conversation and about some of the stuff that I was going through, and Trisha started sharing some of the things that she was going through. Here, Anton showed up. Apparently,
no, I think she's just saying hey if he's watching.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about that, and I was talking about the process of letting some of this go, and the effects that was happening to me. And just FYI, you guys, I'm human, and so I have issues in my life. And my thing is that anybody who tries to act like they're almighty and perfect, and they're not. Okay. So every single person that lives on this earth is human, and they're going to have human issues, human problems, and human emotions. And so we all have to learn how to deal with them the best way that we can. And I ended up having to, kind of kick in some of my skills after I had a little meltdown. And so that's what kind of, as I was sharing some of this with Trisha, and she's sharing some of the stuff with me, that's how we decided, oh my God, this is a great topic that we needed to talk about. So, do you want to like start, or you want me to start, or how do you want to enter into this?
Well, something I was thinking of before we came live is like, we can consciously think, okay, I've let go of this person. I've let go of this, this trigger I may have, whatever it is. It could be a trigger about many things from childhood, from adulthood. And you think you've let go, and then somebody behaves in a certain way, and the adrenaline kicks in. I was triggered. It's Sunday, and it's something to do with work or business, you could say. And I got so angry. I admit, like, I used to say I never got angry. When I was younger, I said I don't ever get angry, which is BS because I'd suppressed it. And
I want to jump in with that real quick, because you know what? I used to do the same thing, and I would say I never got angry either. But the thing is here's the reality. I avoided anger.
Yeah.
And so anybody who I thought potentially could be a person that could bring that out in me, I would stay clear of them. They were like, well, I was like this. So I avoided those situations. So it was easy for me to say, oh, I never get angry, you know, but
I can remember priding myself that I never.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I got triggered on, it was Sunday, and it was to do with a business thing, and I'm sat here thinking, all right, why? I could feel it bubbling up, and I was like, but for one of the first time I actually voiced how I felt to the person or people. I said, you know, I even was really honest with one of them, said, this is reminding me of when my father would promise to turn up and wouldn't turn up, you know, when you'd be waiting for him, and he would just, you get to the point where you expect they don't turn up, and you expect less from these people. But I realized in the moment, I said to him, look, I'm really angry, but what I'll be really honest is this is a childhood trigger that clearly I still haven't healed, because I felt so let down, so disappointed that they were being really, like, not taking things seriously.
Okay, so I want to ask you some questions about that. Do you really think that it's a healed situation, or it's just a situation that pisses you off?
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody wants to, but like, I guess if someone said, oh, my wife's sick, my husband's sick, I'm going to have to reschedule, you're fine with that. That doesn't bother you because they've said, look, I can't do this. But when someone just like acts like, oh, well, there was the lack of communication. I don't know. I think it was a bit of both. It was a bit of, this is not acceptable. But I think what it triggered in me is they obviously don't respect either their time or my time. I felt my time wasn't respected, and they obviously don't respect their time. But it was a bit of both, I think. Childhood stuff and this is not respectful. Like, I just felt disappointed because I thought it was like a professional thing. That was one example recently that's I'm getting triggered by people that I like to have fun doing what I'm doing, but I take it seriously. This is my full-time profession. I don't have another job. Some people, this is a hobby and they have a job. It's not like that for me. And I think I'm getting triggered by people that are just totally not, like, being ethical and honorable. And it's just, yeah, it was a mixture of things, I think. I don't think it was one thing. I was getting triggered. But even they said, like, whoa, I can tell you're really angry.
That's funny.
I'm just gonna like take my camera and mute myself and go outside and calm down because we're on Zoom.
Right. So this is actually what we're going to be talking about, is real life issues, you guys, and how to let them go. And when you don't let it go, what ends up happening. So why don't you share what happened while you were like festering on that?
Well, yeah, because I feel I didn't really fully, I feel I was, okay,
Hi,
so I'm not mentioning names, it's nobody here, it's something completely different. I don't think I fully felt heard.
Hold on a second, I'm listening.
That's okay. I felt I wasn't fully heard. I felt they weren't, you know, just I felt unheard was one of the reasons. And I still don't think I really got it all out, because the next day I got the mother of all headaches to the point where it felt like a migraine, and I felt so ill the next day because I feel I didn't fully get it all out.
Hey, Michelle, how are you? Yeah, it's so I think that, so let's kind of talk about letting go for a second, because, you know, what is the process of letting go? Because in my situation, which I'll explain in a minute, I thought I let go, but it was suppressed.
Right.
And then we're going to also kind of go into what happens when you suppress emotions. So how do you know that you've let go? Like when when you've really let something go. And I think that the bottom line is that I personally, and this is just my opinion, is I think you have to have somebody you trust in your life that's a bouncing board. And you really need to like be able to like let it out. Because what I've found is that when I start letting it out, like I have somebody, like I called my husband on my situation, and as I'm talking, all kinds of stuff started coming up. I mean, it was like, and so you feel peace. Okay. That's actually a really good thing, Michael. That's actually correct. But the thing is that a lot of times we think we're letting something go, or a lot of times we say, I don't know how to let it go, but holding on to something. So let's just look at what holding on to something looks like. Holding on to something is like suppression is where you ignore it and say, I'll deal with it later. Okay. You just kind of push it to the side, but it's still there and it still bothers you. You're just choosing not to look at it, address it, or anything like that. And letting something go is when you consciously make a choice to say, I can't control this. It's not within my power to do anything. So I'm going to make a conscious choice to let this go. And I think like with Michael, there's a sense of peace that kind of, like he said, there's a sense of peace that kind of comes over you when you make that conscious decision.
But I think you're right. And like Michael said, you have to let it all out, like your friend, rebound, broad approach. If I feel you're right. If you don't, there's other ways, there's writing technique. If you don't vent and get it all out, I feel it just stays stuck. And you can consciously say, I'm not triggered by that, but something's going to come along at some point and you're going to find you're triggered. And
absolutely,
I agree with Michael. When I know I've let go of something, I feel neutral. Like peace, but it's neutral. It's like
that is exactly right. That's exactly right. That is so true.
I don't.
When you brought up something that is really good technique is writing. So like I've found that sometimes actually confronting the person isn't always the best scenario, because that person could be so confrontational that it could create more pain within you. So,
or and I'll add to that, which I've had recently, is they don't hear you, or they either can't hear what you're trying to tell them, or they don't want to hear it. So you're telling them, they might not get confrontational, but they're not listening, they're not hearing you, if you know what I mean. You're not being heard. They're listening.
Well, sometimes people, like in my situation, which I'll explain in a minute, but in my situation, it was multi-layered. Okay. There was a lot of stuff going on, but in one of those parts, there was an issue with my sister's husband, and I confronted him, and I sent him a text message and said, can you once in your lifetime not be selfless? And he came back at me with full force. I mean, It was attack. And he hit every angle that he could with a lot of force. So sometimes, and normally with people like him, I don't usually confront, but I was kind of like at my boiling point, meaning that I'd had so many things hit me that honestly and truthfully I'd suppressed.
Yeah.
And so I literally, like, it was, and he just got in the line of fire.
Shaking a Coke bottle and taking the lid off.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened, and I am so calm all the time, and most things don't bother me. I mean, usually I can let things just slide off. And honestly, I feel at peace with pretty much everything. But there's certain things that do trigger me. And the things that trigger me are people that are really close to me. Like if it's a family member, for example, those are the ones that can really hit those buttons a little harder than anybody else.
Yeah. Because they've often, especially parents, they've implanted those buttons without realizing it.
So Iowa and Michael and you, all three of you guys have brought up something. About writing.
But I wouldn't send the letter. My advice is burn it. Do not, because you're sending all that anger to someone.
Right.
And they'll either hold on to it, or they'll go and throw it back at you, or they'll throw it at someone else.
Or they'll feel it physically. And
or they'll feel it.
This is going to be kind of part of the conversation that we're going to talk about too, because that's where we have a lot to cover here. So
I would have we'll come back to
that. So as far as a really good technique that I've found that works really well is when you actually sit down and write. So like if you sit there and you write it out, and you did this, and this makes me feel like this, and you just let it out. And I mean, I'm talking tears rolling down your eyes, letting your heart just explode on the paper. And, sometimes for me, that may take a couple hours, and, just writing and writing and writing, because I'm an emotional person. And so I'll sit there and do that. And then I'll fold it up, I'll hide it, put it away. And then I'm usually in that state of mind. I'm usually like, and I'm going to give it to him tomorrow, and I wake up the next day and I'm fine. And I'm like, I need to tear this up. And because it's gone, like Michael said, I feel at peace. It's like all the emotions are just, and then all of a sudden I just feel love. And I actually did that one time with my husband, where we got into, which we don't fight very much, but it was a stupid situation. And he was really stressed and over something, and he was having a hard time. And so he was nitpicking, and so it kind of created some tension between us. And so I stepped away and sat there and wrote. And then when I finished, I walked outside and it was all gone. And I just walked up to him and hugged him and said, I love you, and I don't want to fight anymore. And he said, I don't want to fight with you either. And he goes, I'm sorry. And that was it. And it was like, and that love that I sent him, he felt. And so that's the thing, you guys, is like kind of like what Trisha was saying, is that when you send that energy back, it bounces off to them, and then they send it back to you. And there's even more pain that gets experienced because it's an energy exchange when you start sending anger.
Yeah, because I'll give an example. I did this, and there's a lady called Anne Scholes that is coming on my channel. We're not sure what day we're going to do it. She's a British medium, psychic, whatever, Reiki master. She said to me one day, it was when I was having a really hard time with my mother, and she said to write her a letter. But she said, do not send it. Now, she's an Aries number 8. So Anne, like you always imagine, she'd be like quite fiery. And she's, do not send this letter. You burn it safely. So I think I need to do another one. I not think I do. So I start writing the letter. And as a lot of you know, I don't really swear. You'll very rarely hear me swearing. Well, I let rip on this. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about the spelling. Don't worry if it's neat. I let rip, and I was crying, and I was swearing, and I was effing, and I was blinding, and because I had all this issue about being sent to boarding school and all the things that I felt were a thing that was never resolved, that I had an issue with, and I let rip in this letter, and I shocked myself. I was like, oh my gosh, like that has all been inside me, and it was ugly. It was not pretty. If I'd have given that to my mother, the bomb would have gone up. She would have flipped out, and I would have had it all thrown back at me. Would have had a mass. I just let rip page after page, and then I burnt it, and I felt so much more at peace. I felt so calm after it. But I think I do need to do another one because other things have happened since. And I would highly recommend it. Just do not send it to the person, because you are asking for.
You're asking us the serious trouble, right?
You will feel different. And even if you don't speak to that person or have anything to do with them, you're calmer. It's about you feeling calm. It's not about, they're probably just getting on with their life and don't give a hoot whether you're upset or not. Sadly, most people, they probably don't even know you're harboring all these things.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true. I used to express myself through writing many times, and I would send the emails. And I hadn't learned the lesson of not sending it. And this is years ago. And I'd always end up getting these emails back that I was just like, oh, you know, and one of my friends said, Michelle, one of the very best things you can do is to write it, but don't send it, you know? And she's like, she says, just wait the next day and see how you feel. Give it some time, you know, like let that energy subside out of you. And she, you know, one day I actually, you know, I was doing really well at that. And one day I actually hit send and I got this really nasty reply back. And that was this long ass composed email. And I was reading it to her and she just shook her head and she goes, I thought we learned this lesson. And I go, well, finally I learned it. I learned it today. And so no, we do not hit send or deliver letters or any of that kind of stuff because those emotions are so powerful. And the thing about it is that most of the time, once you've let it out, you don't feel it anymore. And then you're like, well, I really didn't mean that, you know.
Especially, if you stay in contact with them. Or what will happen is they might not have a go back at you, but you'll attract someone else who then will throw all that energy at you, linked to something else. You'll attract it back.
That's true. So basically, I'm going to kind of share like what's been going on with me now, you know. So there's been a series of events that have happened and it kind of, and I was suppressing it. So my daughter's getting married in the first week of October and she's doing a destination wedding. And so my husband is a private investigator and he basically he works primarily for one company, but he has some other companies that he contracts with. And suddenly he just stopped getting work and he stopped getting work with all the different companies. And it was so slow that at one point, one of the companies, the major one that he gets most of his work from, sent him an email saying, we need you to send the phone back because there's just can't justify the expense. And it felt like he got fired, but he didn't get fired. It was just them trying to save some money. And, you know, my heart just kind of dropped because I was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, I've got all these different resumes out. I'll, you know, do our plan, which is to have multiple different companies that I work for, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, nobody's responding to the resumes and, you know, we're fixing to go to Mexico. And so,
I was going to say, it's a destination wedding, like where you do it away from home, like the holiday type wedding.
Right. And there was quite a bit of money spent on this. So he's basically doing some work, some security work, which pays about a third of what he normally makes. And his hours are usually like 3 or 4 days a week. He gets home at 2:00. He gets all this free time. He's in a good mood. And now he's having to work. He's working nights and he's working 13 hours at a time, 7 days a week. And he's only making probably a third of what he was doing. And he's like, if I take off a week, he goes, we're going to be in a bad situation. And so I kept on like, you know, oh no, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. And but I'm battling, you know, when we were talking about manifestation at one time, you know, I'm battling against his belief system. And I had to have a conversation with him. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to be positive for both of us. And I'm trying to, you know, be double the amount of energy, but you're so powerful and you're so strong and your emotions are so strong that you've got to take them down a notch so that I can like work up to it and compensate for it because I think you're making this happen. And I
was just going to say, there's a feeling in me that either it's giving him a kick up the butt for what, because I found with certain things, when the down times happens, it can give you a kick up the butt and then you sow all these new seeds, which will bear fruit, but it sort of gives you a bit of I need to start doing things differently or do something, or you, like you say, manifested it for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. He could have just got resting on his laurels a little bit.
I think he just kind of like, I mean, he's made some comments like, nobody wants to hire me. Like, apparently I'm unhireable. And he's
putting that out.
Yeah, he's putting it out there. And I'm like, and so of course, I'm trying to be positive for him. So I'm trying to, keep his willpower up and keep him motivated and all this other stuff. But here I'm worried, and I'm suppressing these emotions because I can't show them to him, because if I do, then it gives him an excuse to feel that way. Right. And it's just double negative manifestation. And so I've got this going on, so I'm trying to work harder at this. And so I end up doing this big ass promotion and I make a good amount of money. And I'm like, look how much I brought in. And he's like, Michelle, it's still not okay. You have to understand it takes two of us to do this. And this is what's happening on this end. And let's just put the numbers to it. And he goes, if I am out of work for a week, he goes, I'm not going to be able to go. Well, before we had that conversation, because I kept on ignoring him and I was suppressing those emotions, suppressing them and ignoring every time he said that. And I was like, that's not going to happen. And so I'm looking for now a babysitter for my dogs. And so
because his logical mind is trying to be, let's be logical, but then in manifestation, it's not logical. If you listen to Esther Hicks, like she would be saying to him left, right, and center, you are attracting the negative because that's what you're thinking about. And she would say to any of us, whoever it was, we've had a very similar, it's interesting. We had this conversation. We had a very similar, I was picking up vibes about Lewis and then tonight, because he only got given 2 days work last weekend, which was a bit of a shock to him. And I think I felt that. Then he's got 4 days this week, and then he's been told he's got all this other work coming in now that he didn't think he would have. But he said to me, there's X amount in his bank account because we got this big chunk of money come in, and it's still fine. But I was feeling like, I thought, he's going to mention money. I can feel Lewis is going to mention money and the bills, make sure we're okay. And lo and behold, tonight he says, just got to make sure, as if he was my partner. He's only 19, 20, but he's very life path 4, wants to make sure. I was like, boy, I was picking up on him. It was like the words came out of his mouth was what I was picking up. I knew he was going to mention money. And I said, it's all going to be, you've got more money coming in now. You've got more hours, because he went probably Shane, down that spiral of, I've gone from 6 days a week, raking it in for a 19-year-old boy, and he does help out with the bills at home, to 2 days a week. And he was shocked. He was like, oh my God. He went into panic.
And I think that's what happened to him. And so I kind of saw it coming, and I'm trying to catch it before he falls. But I could see the downhill spiral starting to happen,
Yeah.
And I, you can't control somebody else, but I can really try real hard, as his partner to help him, stay positive and everything. And so here I was suppressing this, and then I'm still in my mind, he's going to Mexico. Okay. And that's just him. And I'm going to work harder at my positive emotions and everything and keep that in check. And I'm going to, make this happen. And so I'm over here trying to find, a dog sitter, and I got a commitment from my niece, and then all of a sudden that ended up falling out because of circumstances that happened with the place that she moved in. And she calls me and she says, why don't you talk to Mom about it? And so I contacted her, and as I'm having a conversation with her about it, there's some circumstances of what's going on in their home with her husband, and it's not very good. And I wasn't really aware of it, nor was I listening, which was a problem. Because there were some key things in there that I didn't catch in the text message that she was trying to tell me, but not telling me. And so all I was thinking was, this is a person that loves dogs, a dog person. She's got a house. She has a yard. This is somebody I'm really close to. And then she's telling me no. and she's kind of blaming it on silly little situations here and there. And I this is going on and this is going on. But the reality is it was about something completely different. And I wasn't hearing that. all I was hearing was this little thing over here. And I'm like, come on, that's stupid. And then she'd hear this and, and the thing is I should have just accepted it, but I didn't. And so I felt like, shoot, man, I do things for you all the time. Why can't you do this one thing that's important to me? And, my dogs are good. They're awesome. I mean, Chief is amazing. He's amazing dog. He's like super dog. And so he's like awesome. And so I felt, kind of hurt, that she wasn't going to do this for me, because I've done so many things. Like I've left work to help her when she was in a crisis multiple times, to pulling out situations and putting myself in a situation that wasn't necessarily good, just to help over and over again. I've done this multiple times. And there was a level of expectation that I shouldn't have put in. Okay. That was wrong with me. I shouldn't have put that expectation. But sometimes with people like that you care about, you do that. And I realized that after the fact, but I was tied up in a lot of emotion because I needed to find somebody to watch my dogs. And, I had suppressed emotions about the whole trip. So then my dad calls me and he's all upset because he wasn't put on the list to go to the wedding, and because my daughter only can invite a certain amount of people, and she tried to extend that list and make it larger to go outside of like the immediate people, and her dad, who's paying for it, said no. And she was like, well, can't we do it like this, or can't we do it like this? And he said, no, if you started opening up and doing all this, then we're going to have to open it to everybody. And then it gets really expensive. And we're just not going there. You're just going to have to say no. We'll have like a little party, or we'll have a reception or something like that, but that's it. And so my dad got his feelings hurt, and I had to work on that. No, she does love you, and, and all this other stuff. So I was dealing with that. So there was like multiple things going on here. Happening at the same time. And suddenly I wake up in the middle of the night, and I mean, right here in my head, I start getting this like horrible, like migraine type electrocution thing. It felt like somebody put an electrical current in my head and went. Psh, psh.
That's what I was getting the other night, but I think it was on this side, the left.
Oh, well, see, this is on my right. And so it was like,
was on the left.
And I was like sitting here trying to find it, and I'm putting my fingers on it and pressing really hard, going, what the heck, And yeah. And so I couldn't sleep. And then when I woke up, finally it was time to get up. I mean, I would like in and out. I finally was able to get a little bit of rest, which wasn't easy. It was like falling asleep for a few minutes. And I started doing these techniques where I was telling my brain that the pain is gone. And I was kind of doing like a Taoist type thing. And I was able to actually get it to settle down, and eventually got it to stop. But it was hours of doing that. Okay. And not sleeping. So I finally fell asleep. And then when I got up after sleeping for maybe 2 hours that night, all of a sudden my stomach started hurting. I mean, like the upper part of my stomach was hurting so bad that I felt like I was doubled over. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And it was so much pain. And I mean, it got so bad, I went and threw up, and then I was doubled over. It was
all this after your dad had got upset.
This is after everybody got upset.
So it's like you've taken on everybody's upset.
Well, so the thing is I don't take on my clients, but apparently I take on my family. And so like, it's so easy for me to like walk away, when somebody's like, I can sit here and listen to stuff all day long and it doesn't faze me, but with them, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I didn't realize at the time what was going on. I finally got into I canceled all my appointments, laid on the sofa. My dog wouldn't leave me alone. He kept on laying his head on my head, like a big old head that's twice the size of mine, like on top of me, licking me, going, are you okay? I'm worried about you. I went into the bathroom to go throw up, and I'm laying on the floor, and he's got his little paw sticking through the door, like going,
Oh, bless him.
He was so worried about me. And And so he's just so adorable. I mean, I just love him so much. So anyway, I finally lay down and I lay down and I get into a position where, okay, I'm sort of laying on the couch, kind of in a fetal position. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting the pain to go away. And I'm like working on it again, mentally, like in double time, trying to get this thing to, settle down. And then several hours later, it was kind of stopping. I mean, I wasn't throwing up or anything. And I was able to get up and walk around a little bit, but standing up seemed to make it worse. And then, so the next morning I called my husband and I was talking to him, and suddenly I was telling him about how I was feeling. And then next thing I know, I'm telling him about everything that's going on and how I felt about the trip and how I felt about him working nights and how I felt about him working every day and how I felt about this whole job situation and how I felt about the whole my sister and her husband situation and how I was really, 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 really angry with her husband. And I had been suppressing that for a really, really, really long time because there's a lot to be angry about. And so there was, because he's the one who said no, by the way, that he's the one who the whole thing and said, absolutely not, and totally freaked out without even taking it into consideration or anything. And I was upset that my dad was hurt. It was like a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm just like, and he's like, wow, you have a lot going on. And I go, apparently I've been suppressing this. And as I'm like, just crying and crying and crying, because he's working. He's on the job still. He hadn't gotten off of work. And so I'm calling him and telling him this. And then suddenly, and he's really good listening to everything I'm saying, even the stuff about him, and he's just totally calm and listening to me and being really supportive. And suddenly my headache went away. And my stomach stopped hurting as much. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. My stomach's not hurting like that anymore. And I go, oh my God, this was all suppressed emotions. And then I was talking to one of my friends and they were talking about the gut and how the gut has a brain. And I was like, hold on a second. My gut was saying, enough's enough, Michelle. You got to get this shit out. I've handled this for so long, we're going up, we're taking the elevator. And I think what happened was because I didn't speak about it, it went into my, so it's going through the chakras and it went into, and it's, and it wasn't until I brought it back down into the throat chakra and let it out.
Because when you're on the phone, if you think it's going in your ear, it's affecting your head, it could be affecting your throat or your stomach. Like Michelle LeBlanc said, Michelle, you took in all their emotional negative energy. And that's what because I didn't know the bit about your dad. I was thinking that the other night when you told me. And I think for me, I had a very similar experience, apart from I wasn't physically sick. I had to lay in the fetal position because my stomach I couldn't get any relief from my stomach. Whatever I did, I could just drink water. I couldn't eat. I was like, oh God, what's going on? Where's this coming from? But I think I'd done the same. I'd taken on other people's emotions.
Well, it's like my dad was hurting. Okay. And I love my dad so much and I can't stand for him to hurt. And so, then my, my husband's upset because, he's doing everything possible that he can do and, to make everything okay. But, he's been dealing with this. I mean, what else can he do? I mean, at least he's not a lazy bum sitting on his ass,
This is where it all goes back to us all being responsible for how we feel and letting go of, like we're saying, we're letting go of our feelings, but safely, not necessarily dumping it on, like you say, your dad didn't mean to, dumped it all on you, really. If he'd have written that out and burnt it, nobody would have felt that, would they? He would have cleared it, or another technique. But
Actually, you're right. And so this is the part that we were going to kind of get into about energy exchange, because you guys, like, after I had this discussion with Trisha and telling her everything that happened, she was like, you took on your husband's energy, and that's why it had to come out, because it wasn't yours. Like, it was,
you were just a container for it.
I was like, even though he wasn't expressing it, he was dealing with it on his own. And I knew he was. That's why I confronted him and said, you need to start working on this positive energy thing, because I know you're not telling me that you're upset, but I can feel it. And I was already feeling it happen. And when you're that close to somebody, your energy gets entwined. And when he's feeling it, it just kind of flowed right into me, and I become a little vessel for it. And my gut said, hell no, this isn't mine. I'm letting this go, or I've had enough. And, when you're
married to someone and you're
living with them,
it's a child. They're the people you're going to feel it from the most. I mean,
that's right, Michelle. We can't control other people's feelings, but what are you supposed to do when you're in a situation where you live with somebody like Trisha and her son?
I pick on him all the time. I knew he was doing the maths with the money, like an accountant. I know he's going to say something about money tonight. I'm sure it's one of the first things he said. We just, we've got this amount and we're still okay, but it's going down. And I'm like, what I always say to him that I'd already got ready in my head was, money is energy. It flows in and flows out. There's nothing wrong with saving, but, if you're going to focus on the lack, that's what's going to happen.
And exactly. And this is what I was explaining to him, is that we have to, finally, when I busted it all out, he busted it all out, which was good. Okay. That's what he needed to do. Okay. So he's letting it all out too, and telling me how he's thinking and what he's feeling and how it's been bothering him. And I knew that part of the reason that it was bothering him so much is because he knew it would bother me. Okay. So I literally had to say, okay, I'm going to go into acceptance and I'm going to let this go. And he's like, Michelle, just look at it like this. He goes, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I go, well, that's good, but you're going against everything that I believe in. I'm a magical person and I believe in magical things. And I have manifested things every time I wanted something, I made it happen. And your energy is too powerful. And what you're doing is creating a block, an energy barrier for me to be able to make this happen for us. So I need you on board here to help me manifest this and make this happen. And, so it's, but it was in that's kind of where part of my frustration was, is that I can't make him behave a certain way. I can't make him believe a certain way. I can't, like Michelle said, you can't control other people's thoughts. But when somebody is in your life that close to you, they're emotional person, their emotions are very powerful, and emotions are like a catalyst. It's like turbo boosters, and they'll. Yeah.
Well, just think of all the couples that are together after some years and they start to look like each other. They start to look like each other, act like each other. You see that in couples, don't you? They start taking on each other's. It's very powerful especially when you're living with somebody, you're married to them, or not married, even if you're just living. Michelle says, I'm in the same position as you, Trisha. We absorb the energy of those close to us. Yeah, just me and my son. But I definitely, I think with our children particularly as well, because we've given birth to them, we've been connected, by the umbilical cord. I do feel it's strong with our children. It can be very strong if you live with someone.
You're living with somebody, because when I was living with my sister,
sexually connected as well, because that's going to be more powerful.
Well, when you're living with somebody, there was a point when I was living with my sister, and you know, and during that time we were very, very connected. And the thing is that, so I kind of wanted to kind of get into the effects of your emotions and what it can do to somebody else. So basically his emotions got sent to me. Okay. And those emotions were so powerful that it actually made me sick. Okay. So that's one scenario, but I'm going to give you several other scenarios of things that have actually happened that made me discover how powerful an emotion can be to make somebody sick. Okay. Now, it wasn't his intention to make me sick.
No.
Just like it wasn't your son's intention to give you a headache or a stomach ache or any of that kind of stuff. Is their worry and stress that they start thinking about you and they're sending it, but they're not really like, I'm going to send this to Trisha. They're like thinking about you, and there's a lot of emotion, and it starts projecting in that direction.
And that person was just about, could be thousands of miles away. Might have even
yes. Yes.
You may never have even met them. People's energy can be, if they project it and they're thinking about you and it's very emotional, they could be like in America and I'm in the UK or vice versa. And
you are absolutely right, because sometimes like I actually feel your energy. Sometimes I'm going through the day and I'll get this like drop in my stomach and I'll go, I need to call her. You know, I know something's going on there. And so there's a connection that happens, you know, but you have to know yourself. And that's the part, you have to know yourself so you can identify and understand this energy when it hits you. And so when I was living with my sister, we got really close, and there was a time where we had to go to an event, a family situation, and she had a pain right there in her back that was hurting her real bad. And she asked me to kind of rub it out. So I'm sitting on the sofa and she's sitting like sideways on the sofa, Indian style. And I get behind her and I wrap my legs around her and I'm pushing on that spot. And as I'm doing it, she's kind of screaming and kind of going, ah, and I'm like, just breathe, because, you know, I'm going to release that lactic acid and it's going to make it feel better. So she reaches down because my feet are right in front of her and she grabs my toe and she's kind of just squeezing on it, which didn't hurt, you know, just light pressure, you know, just kind of like holding on like that. And suddenly I get this surge of energy that goes whoosh, and it felt like somebody stabbed me in the toe. And I was like, ow, you know, and I had to sit there and I started stomping it out. And I was like, what the hell did you just do? And she's like, well, I had to send it somewhere. And I was like, well, don't send it to me. And she started getting into this habit of every time she was upset about something, she would like send that energy to me because she thought, well, you're a healer. And so she would purposely do it. Now, this is a person that's cognitive about the energy and aware of it and wants to get rid of it and knows she needs to get rid of it. So what does she do? So we do it subconsciously.
So she didn't mean to like, oh, I'm going to hurt Michelle by sending it at her. She just thought you could take it from her and
exactly, like magically do something with it, you know, like catch it in the air, you know. Oh, thank you, Jenny, you know. And and so I don't think she grasped what she was doing because she would send it right to my heart. And I was like, one day I called her and I said, you have got to stop this because you're going to cause me to get a heart attack or something because you just keep on shoving it in my chest. It's not funny. And so I got her to stop. So instead, what she started doing when she would get upset about something, and she would get upset a lot because she's got a pretty bad situation with her husband. So anyways, without getting into the details there, which is a large reason of suppressed emotions for me on that, because I've had to support her and love her and not say too much, you know? And
another reason for us all to try and keep our lives and energy as clear and light as possible.
Well, right. You sit there and you worry and you dwell and you think about it and I can't do that. So I would, So what she would do with this pain that she was experiencing, she said, well, I can't send it to Michelle anymore. So she decided that she was like, well, what can I do with it? And she decided, oh, well, I'm going to just throw it down the sink. And so she sends the energy down the sink. Okay.
Be telling me this.
And anyways, they went through the pipes and ended up screwing up the pipes in her pool. And she ended up having backed up pipes and ended up having to get a new pool pump. And this is a person, you guys, that's very aware of how to move energy. She's actually telekinetic, so she can actually literally move objects. So she is very capable of moving energy. And so when we had to talk about that, and I'm like, okay, you can't put it in my toe, you can't put it in my heart, and you can't put it down the sink. So, you know, she's like, well, what do I do with it? And I go, why don't you send it into the universe? And she goes, well, she was afraid she was going to blow up a planet or something. And
oh, bless her. I'd rather blow up a planet.
It's like this thing that happens in the sky. Like she's like, I might blow up the sun and then we're gonna not have a sun. And I'm like, I just like started laughing and I said, well, why don't you like call on a deity or something and ask them to grab it or put it
and transmute
around,
it. Don't they say transmute it and nobody gets hurt?
Mm-hmm. So, or look for a focal point where there's nothing and like put it like what I do is I imagine a staff and I put it on the end of the staff and I look into the sky where I don't see anything and I shoot it that direction. And, so yeah, she did, Michelle.
I think the best would be to just transmute it. Then it doesn't nothing gets hurt then.
So explain what you mean by that.
When they say, you know, like you can send it up, you know, and out your body, but then ask for it to be transmuted in the way I haven't physically thought of it for a while, but when I used to, I just imagine it does dissipate into nothing.
So one of the things that I do when I do a hypnosis session, I always have them release it into something and it gets sent into the universe so it can be transformed into positive energy. So I usually say those words like, and send it off, let it go so it can be transformed into positive energy. So that's what I ended up telling her is like, if you can just imagine sending it, and then when it reaches a certain point, it transforms, like you said, and it transforms into positive energy. But the whole point behind all this is that you guys addressing somebody, you need to have a safe person to talk to. Okay. If you don't have a safe person to talk to that, you know, isn't going to judge you, argue with you, tell you to shut up, calm down, you know, and that kind of stuff, you need to have somebody that's going to listen to you. That's a bouncing board. Okay. But you don't want to make them your dumping board either, because then they're not going to want to listen to you all the time. Because every single time you call them, you're calling them for a problem. So you don't want to be that person either.
They're going to start avoiding you then.
You're like, no, that's Michelle. She's going to have another problem, right? You know? Exactly. It's like, don't do that. Okay. So what you want to do is, and find ways like that you can do it. Like take your energy and send it and imagine it like being pulled out of you into a ball and then send it into the universe to be transformed, and write it down on a piece of paper and let all your emotions out. And I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do this.
IRX has made a really good point. This is why you do not flush spell works down the commode or the toilet. That is really a good point. When you think of people that do spells and whatever they do, and sometimes they'll flush it down the toilet, or that's a really good point.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I'm telling you guys, this is real stuff. Like when I start telling some of the crazy shit that's happened to me, people just like look at me and go, what? And I'm telling you, it's real stuff. She literally like broke a pump, you know, because her energy was so strong. And I'm telling you, Shane's energy was so strong that it made me sick. Okay. There is you know, I have actually felt when somebody came at me with anger, I have felt a rush of energy of that, like felt like a heat wave that came up and warmed my ears, made my ears red. And then my heart started racing. And, you know, and you feel this like almost like tears just go, it goes, you know.
I've also felt sexual energy. Do you get that? Where you've,
yes.
Where someone sends you sexual energy, and like, that freaked me out first when I first felt that. I was like, okay, this isn't me. What is going on? And luckily I got to ask the person, it was an ex, and he confessed, yeah, absolutely, I was doing that at that time. And I was like, okay, so this now gives me confirmation that this is real. I'm not imagining this. And I've had it with different men. Mm-hmm. So even they're thinking about me and they're doing whatever they're doing, I'm feeling it.
I've had that happen. I've had that happen before too.
And it could be someone you've not seen for a year or two. I mean, and it's crazy.
Sometimes it's like creepy energy. Like, yeah, it's like, get away. Yeah, exactly. But the whole thing here, you guys, is to learn how to let things go and to understand the causes of it not letting go. Okay. So if you don't let go of something, okay. So there was a combination of energy that compiled. So I had my own, okay, that I was dealing with that was suppressed. And then I had Shane came in and, you know, filled it all up. And so like I picked up on his stuff, and then my gut said, no, that's enough. I can't handle anymore. And, you know, and so there was all those things that happen, and there is suppressed energy will create all kinds of problems, knee problems. It'll cause a knee issue. It'll cause back problems because you're not supported, or people aren't listening to you. It will cause headaches because it's too much going on and too much being sent to you, and there's not enough release. There's, you know, when other people are stressing all around you, you're going to get like ulcers and stuff, you know. So you've got to be aware of what's going on with you, and you have to be aware of what's going on with other people. And you need to be aware enough to where you can say, okay, I got to let this go. And so and whether or not it's somebody else sending it to you, you still have to let it go. So a way of letting it go, like Trisha said, is writing it, but just don't throw it down the toilet.
Yeah, and don't flush it down the toilet. That'll be another one.
Right. I think the best way is to burn it.
Burn it, yeah, safely.
Yeah, that seems to be the safest way to do it. I've torn it up and threw it in the trash before, but you know.
A good tip I was given is don't reread it back. Mm-hmm. Some people do, but don't read it back after all that you've put in and got rid of. Don't read it back, because then you sort of you may absorb some of that back in. Once you do it, just burn it safely. I wouldn't advise you to read it back. Okay, that's
actually a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Think when we do talk about things and we talk about something that's happened that's not good, and we talk about it, we're reaffirming it all the time, and our body doesn't know the difference between, our brain doesn't know the difference between what's happened and not happening anymore, and is it really happening now? Your body
yeah, exactly. That is actually very, very accurate, Trisha. If you don't let it go, your body sees it as an ongoing experience.
Like it's really happening when it's not. It's just.
So a lot of people ask me, they're like, okay, how do you let that go? You know, it's really upsetting me. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, when it happens to you, when these things are current, it's, let it out. Yeah. Let it out then, okay, instead of suppressing it. I have a tendency of suppressing things, not intentionally, but because I don't have time to deal with it. And it's like, oh, well, I'll deal with that later. I'm just put it in, in the back burner. And I, and so it's not that I'm intentionally saying, okay, what, I'm going to suppress this. It's just that I actually have other things that I need to do, that I need to put my consciousness into, and I don't need to put my energy into that negative energy into that thing that I'm putting my consciousness into. Okay. But the reality is that we really need to take time and let it go. I mean,
also some people keep it in because they don't want to hurt other people, or they've been taught it's wrong to express their feelings, which was a big one for me. It's not nice girls. Hi, Anton. Anton's here, look. But he was lurking. Anton. So, nice girls or nice women don't vent. That's what I was led to believe. Mm-hmm. Like, good girls don't share those emotions, but that is not healthy at all.
No, it's not. But if you're in a situation where you don't have anybody to share those emotions with, you guys, there are other tools that you can use. And so, like we're suggesting, is to write it out, and let those emotions flow while you're doing it. Don't just go, I'm pissed off at my brother-in-law. You know, like put it down in that paper, and then take the paper and burn it. And then, or you can literally, like, if you know how to work with energy and you understand energy, you can pull the energy out of you. Like my sister knows how to work with energy, so she can literally pull the energy out. So if you know how to do that and you can pull the energy out and put it into a ball, then take it and shoot it out to the universe and ask for it to be transformed into positive energy. And so
I know another good one.
Yeah, tell us.
It's healthy though. No one gets hurt, because I, like I said before, sometimes have difficulty. When I wrote that letter in particular, it did all just come out. I've tried to do it since, and it's not come out like it did. But when I've been pushed to the point, I would get like a baseball bat or something similar.
Oh my God, that is such a good idea.
I put my poor pillows though. I did it to the pillows on my bed.
No, you need to go get one of those foam bats.
Yeah, I needed to.
You know what I'm talking about? Those foam bats. They're made out of like styrofoam, or they're like squishy.
All right. Well, I used like something hard, but the fact I was hitting my own bed that I sleep in, thinking back now, probably wasn't the best thing to hit.
Yeah, because those hard things you're gonna break. You could break some stuff. Like I have 2 bats that.
Well, I'm thinking I put my angry energy into my bed, whereas I'd probably been better getting a punch bag and whacking it. And I just whacked these pillows with this, and I imagine that was the person, because I wouldn't do it to the person. I cried, I ranted, I raved, but it got it out, and it felt so good. That's
so so there's 2. You just brought up 2 really can't talk. A couple of really good things that that I was going to say is that, and those are really, really good ideas, because like we used to have a punching bag, and I would go out and use the punching bag, and oh my God, it feels so good afterwards. I felt like I completely released so much, and that was like so good. And Shane would do it, and every time he would do it, he was always in a good mood because he was constantly releasing. And so like punching bags are great, to do, like if you have one at a gym or if you have one in your home, using a punching bag is great. It's kind of the same thing as bat, but instead of beating your bed or your pillows and making
thinking back now, my bed probably wasn't the best.
Yeah. Well, get one of those. But if you don't have that, get one of those like foam bats. I mean, they're like more, like for kids. And we actually have one, and I'm not sure why we bought it. Shane was thinking it was funny, and he actually bought it because he picked it up and started like hitting me on the butt with it, and thought it was hilarious. And we're at Walmart, and he ended up buying it. Now he teases the dog with it all the time because it makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't hurt anything. And so like he'll like, because Chelsea will bark. I don't know if you ever saw those videos of him with a bottle, and he'll sit there and shake it like this. And she like starts barking. And so he'll like take the bat and start like, like he'll pop her on the butt, and it doesn't even hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt at all. And she'll just like bark and go totally crazy. And he thinks it's so funny. And then, of course, Chief thinks there's some kind of attack going on, so he's got to save the world, But But yeah, those are good things.
I feel exercise is a good I don't feel it cures it. I think it releases the pressure, like it sort of takes the pressure off, if there's something you've suppressed.
Well, I guess it depends on if you're emotionally projecting it while you're hitting.
Yeah. I mean, if you were just running, say, for example, but you're not processing that emotion, I think it would just take it down. But if you're hitting something and you're really venting, I feel that would get it out. Because I think
that if you're taking that bat or your fist on that punching bag and you're like, motherfucker, and hitting it, and really getting those emotions out, you're letting it go, and it's a safe place to do it. Another thing that really works really well is running.
I was just about to say running. I used to run a lot.
And so there's a couple of really good things that comes from running. So if you run, one of the things you're doing is you're pounding your feet against the ground. So there's like 3 things that happen. You start to vibe at the same vibration as the earth. So the earth is actually sending positive energy through you, through that vibe. Okay. From your feet hitting the ground. The second thing is the pounding is kind of like hitting your fist, so you're releasing and letting it go. And then the other thing is that you're, when you run, you start producing serotonin.
Yeah.
So you're getting you're balancing out your frequency. So you're kind of like vibing or with earth, with Mother Earth. So if you're out there long enough because of your feet hitting the ground, being outside, that's another thing. You're getting energy from the sun. You're getting serotonin release just from exercising, and you're completely like, as long as you're running and getting your frustration out and thinking about it and projecting it, you're literally releasing it in a really powerful way. It's probably one of the better things you can do.
Yeah. I said it's good to be an American. I can go out and shoot stuff, old cars.
So speaking of, he said something about putting it in a uranium or something. Was that what he said?
No, it was like having uranium.
Let me see if I can find it.
Negative energy, put it in a vault. It's useful like uranium because it's explosive.
That's what, because it's explosive. Oh yeah, that is funny. That is funny. Hey, I'm wondering if you could store it some way like that and then do something with it.
Well, I've done the opposite, the freezing out technique, which is where you write people's names. I've done this recently, and I've done it in the past, and it doesn't mean you harm anyone. I used blue. You can use blue ink in the water because blue is for communication, but I use blue I used an eyeliner that doesn't smudge. So I wrote people's names down and I put them in this coffee jar that I'd got, an old coffee jar. And normally you put blue ink in, but I just put a bit of coffee and water and I put the paper in and I sealed it and froze it. And what it does, I just think it's one of the few things I've found actually does work. It is sort of a bit of a spell, but you're not hurting anyone. So if you want to freeze someone out of your life because they've been a pain in the ass or they're hurting you, you don't want to hurt them. And you put it in the freezer, and you know what? I've realised it's worked. Because
what is the thing with the blue? Because I've never heard the blue thing.
Blue is for communication, so I didn't use blue. I used blue pen, or you could say
I've heard of you doing it with water.
But the water, you could put blue ink in to make the water blue because blue represents communication, throat chakra. But you put it in the freezer. And actually, one of those people has totally disappeared off. No harm's come to anybody before anybody takes it the wrong way. I actually can't find them on YouTube anymore.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
They've stopped trolling me and hurt and really causing trouble.
Yeah, I've noticed we haven't been getting any thumbs down.
Yeah, and so I put 19 people in the freezer.
That is awesome, Trish. So, okay, so I'm curious about something, and actually, I should probably call my friend. I have a really good friend who is a high priest or a high priest Wiccan.
Right.
Okay. Not Wicca, but Wiccan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wiccan, yeah.
Yeah. So he knows a lot more about those kind of spells. But I'm wondering if there's a way of pulling out the negative energy from somebody, because we take it in as an empath. So I'm wondering if there's a way of pulling it and then taking it and, like you said, freezing it or something.
Do anything? Yeah. What would you do with it? Like, you're going to end up with a freezer full of jars.
Yeah, and then what happens when something happens in the freezer? Like goes bad, it's like,
When we lived with my parents before my dad passed away, I did do this thing. And one day, my mum defrosted the freezer and took the jars out of the freezer.
What is Michelle Lebec says, Michelle, if you send it to someone, will it come back to you?
It will come back to you, she said.
Oh, she's saying it will come back to you. I don't send things to anybody. Did I get misunderstood?
I don't know. I don't know what she.
Yeah, I don't send negative energy to anybody because I know better than that.
But the funny part was
they feel it and they don't like it, and so they send their energy plus your energy back to you, and it's like double doozy back on you, But
the funny thing was, my mother, I'd done it in my mother's house and put a couple of people's, just little. I thought,
oh, she was talking about when you put it in a ball. And I was talking about putting it in a ball and freezing it. I was just wondering. Yeah. I was kind of joking, but I was just wondering if there was a way of
what would happen.
Like actually like freezing it. Like, so sometimes like I was thinking of like actually like halting it, kind of like binding, kind of like a binding spell.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I don't know anything about, I don't know much about magic. I know very little.
The freezer one, when I did it, and my mother, she decided to defrost the freezer one day and took all my jars out of the freezer.
So then did everybody come after you after that? They did. No way.
It was family members. I'll be honest, it was certain family members I put in not to hurt anyone. It was just, leave me alone, please just leave me alone. And yeah, she defrosted it. I was fuming. I was like, oh my, she didn't know what, that's
so funny.
I think she knew what was in there, and I was like, oh, she's just spoiled my plan.
Well, can I, is there a way of freezing something and sending it to Antarctica? Something like mailing it there so it stays frozen forever.
God knows, maybe.
Actually, I know somebody who works for the university that's something that actually is doing a lot of research. There's a university, or not a university, or there's a whole organization of sorts that is doing some research out. It's in Galveston, and I know one of my friends, her boyfriend is working for them. So I'm wondering, like, if I package it up in a frozen, like, nice little bag and I give it to him, can he send it to Antarctica and it'll stay frozen so I don't have to worry about it defrosting? And
yeah, you could send him a list of names or something.
There you go.
No, I'm laughing, but this thing you can do, and it's quite a common one. You're not hurting anybody. It's not, all you're doing is freezing someone out of your life, basically, because say if it was an abusive ex-husband who will not give up, you could put his name in the freezer. That's an example.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I didn't think it would work, but it does work.
Okay, that is what Wiccans say, but they are just cursing themselves. What do you mean by that?
Like, what do you mean by that? I works?
Yeah, what is what Wiccans say? Because I know we were talking about Wiccans, but I was basically kind of joking around because I don't really know
Another technique to help you with letting go, I find is good. I don't know what you feel about this. Is there's EFT and EMDR. I've had some EMDR done once, but I was paying for it private. And I've heard that they get very good results with EMDR for PTSD. But EFT, I find, is good. for, tapping through the emotions and letting them go. I quite like that. Sometimes it's difficult to get to the core of what the issue is, though, with the EFT. I've found getting the right words.
I think that is kind of the issue right there, is really kind of getting to the core, because you really have to because it becomes just sort of surface stuff that
you've really got to nail it. I think with the EFT, it does work, but you've really got to. Trisha, I just went to a class tonight on EFT. Oh, how cool. I've just found with it, like, you've really got to nail the core issue. Like,
he was saying the 3 times come back at you stuff. I'm still not understanding, like, where you're going with this. Like,
what do you mean by...
Like, explain it a little bit more, because you said that's what Wiccans say, but they're cursing themselves, and I don't know where that came from or what you're referring to.
Wiccans are not as...
He said 3 times comes back. Okay, are you just saying that if we freeze stuff that's what's going to happen? I don't know. I'm not really...
I've heard this threefold coming back at you, but what do you mean? Like,
because we haven't really talked about doing anything to anybody. We're just talking.
What do Wiccans do that they're cursing themselves? I don't get that.
I don't either. I don't know. Well, anyways, but I mean, yeah. So the thing is that we don't want to be sending. You have to be aware that other people might send you energy, and be cautious of that, and make sure that you release it. Okay. And so you don't have situations like what happened with me. The second thing is that you need to also release your stuff and not release it onto other people, because your release onto other people, they're going to, first off, they may come back at you. And
it's a bad karma idea for spell work. Oh, because you said that you might get in touch with your friend who's a Wiccan or something. Maybe he's...
I was joking. I don't know anything very much about that kind of stuff, but there's spell work that I don't think is bad.
I think there's some stuff. I mean, to me, a lot of stuff is magic. What we're doing every day.
Well, I think like manifestation is magic. I think that if people are projecting energy at you and you're just trying to figure out a way to freeze it or stop it or whatever, I don't think that that's bad karma. You're just protecting yourself. You're just like, hey, I'm putting a stop to this. I'm putting an energy.
Do bad things. Yeah, but I was saying you can do bad things to people. Yeah, but we're not talking about doing bad things to people.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, because we're not talking about doing bad things to people.
No.
Yeah, we're just talking about figuring out, I was joking around about saying a different way to
transmute this negative energy. What can you do with it?
Like people that are constantly sending negative energy to you, can you like just grab it and like freeze it? Like, can I freeze the energy? And if I freeze the energy, will it freeze the overall energy that gets projected? Like, will it eventually like keep on going to the frozen part is what I was kind of wondering. Like, if I if I take a ball of energy that's been sent to me and I go freeze it, so the next time it gets sent, does it go like this? Or just straight there, or does it not even recognize that energy, kind of like its own magnet? That's why I was just kind of processing it, just wondering if that was possible. And maybe, you started talking about the defrosting thing, and I said, well, send it to Antarctica.
Yeah, because when I say freezing someone out, I'm not doing this to hurt someone. It's a really classic one to stop people that are hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
You're stopping that bad communication. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed certain people have just stopped communicating with me.
Mm-hmm.
That were not being nice, they were trolling me or, spreading lies about me. It's all stopped as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
So Anton wants Michelle to send him a Valentine's Day card. He's a bit ahead of time, isn't he? That says, I hate you. He's a boy.
Wait, I don't even see that. Where did he say that?
He's a bit ahead of schedule. I want Michelle to send me a Valentine's Day card that says, I hate you.
Oh, I see it up here. I want Michelle.
He's crazy.
Anton, you're just a nut, okay?
And you're a bit ahead of time. I mean, it's still September. Yeah. We're a bit away from February.
Okay. So Robin says you're just blocking the energy. Yeah, exactly. You're keeping it from coming towards you. I was just, you guys will eventually figure out that I say stuff just because I'm kidding around and, like, oh, is there a creative way of doing this?
Yeah, we're just, it's like brainstorming.
Yeah, just being silly. Like, honestly, I don't experiment with magic unless I know. I mean, and if I like the only few things that I've ever done, I'm very cautious, like with, and I'll speak with somebody who's very knowledgeable about it, and maybe they'll help me through it. Like, I did a healing ceremony where I invoked archangels because I had gotten into a car accident, and so that to me was magical. And within the I was 80% better.
Yeah.
And
I think it's more like the people do love spells, to try and bring somebody back or break their marriage up or that. No, don't.
I don't have that in me. The only thing that I have inside of me is I can experience hurt when somebody projects something really bad at me. And I can experience hurt when somebody is not being kind or they're being very selfless, especially when you're doing nice things for them all the time. So those are the, and I can experience that hurt through expressing my emotions, like, but I've done this for you, or, da, 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 or that's an excuse, and I'll call people out, but I never, ever, 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 ever say, call them names or say mean things or create hurtful words or say, even when I called out my brother-in-law, I didn't say mean, hateful words. I just said, can you try to be selfless?
Yeah, because I'll be really honest, like when we first got talking more and I was having some troubles and I was getting triggered and I reacted, everything I teach maybe to a client, I was not walking my talk. I was reacting. Yeah, I would advise them not to react. And you were the voice of reason saying, Trisha, don't give them their energy. Don't react. Don't say anything back. You're just, I knew you were right, but sometimes your buttons get pushed that much.
That's why you need somebody, that
sometimes you need the voice of reason.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you need that person to do that, because like I need that, because sometimes I have triggered moments. That's why I said, like I call my husband and he's usually the voice of reason for me, because I know how he's going to react to things. I know that he's going to, whatever feelings he has usually during that moment, he'll just knock them down, set them aside, and he just listens, and he becomes very analytical to the situation. And that's really, that, like you said, the voice of reason, that's what you need, and I think everybody needs that so that we can,
because I was drawing myself, lowering myself to their level.
That's what you don't want to do.
You don't want to do it. I've done it.
Right. Exactly. And I will tell you that through this whole situation, even though I did get upset with my sister, not upset like angry or you're a horrible person, I can't believe you. And I never called her names. I just said, I only asked if I could bring the dogs over and see how my dogs react with yours. That's all I asked. And you didn't even give me that chance to see if they would get along. And I never even asked you to babysit. You just pooped the whole thing, and without like even taking into consideration. And, I know you guys need some money and I was going to pay you. And I, and that's how I was kind of talking to her. I wasn't like,
but it was really him that was saying no, not her, wasn't it?
It was him that was saying no, but I went back and reread the text later and saw there was some hints in there that I overlooked because my heart was racing and I was feeling hurt, so that, because I was like, I stayed at her house 2 or 3 times while she went on vacation and babysat her dogs.
Yeah.
And I bought them groceries when they didn't have food, and I've given her money just for no reason. I've done a lot of things over and over and over and over again. Left work to help her, when she had a disabled child before he died. She didn't have anybody, she needed somebody to drive them like to the doctor and stuff. So she's like, nurse called in sick. I need you to help me. I just leave work and I go do it. And there was multiple times where situations like that happened. And so for me, I went into this whole little Michelle self-pity thing and felt like, okay, nobody's here to help me. I'm helping everybody else in the world and everybody all over the place, and who's jumping in to help me. And I projected that onto her, and I probably shouldn't have, because I think honestly what she was trying to tell me was, this is not a safe environment for your dogs.
Yeah.
And I wasn't listening to that. And so I did apologize. Like, I apologized as soon as I calmed down.
Yeah.
And came back and said, look, you know what, in your situation, if I was in your situation, I probably would have done the exact same thing. So I apologize. And I just let it go. And that's when I let it go, is when I confronted her and I apologized to her. So it's,
I was just reading something Michelle said. She said, will a positive affirmation daily to protect ourselves from the negative energy help us? Saying out loud will change subconscious. What I feel it does is, and again, this is something you need to be doing minimum of, they say 21 days to a month. And it's something unique, because I listen to subliminals every day. But they say it takes maybe up to a month to really start to kick in. I think they start to work before then. I don't know about protecting you. You'll just attract a different type of energy. But also you've got to really believe that there's a big thing about affirmations. I find people will sit there chanting all these affirmations. They don't really believe it. They'll say like, oh, I'm so lovable, I'm so whatever, beautiful, but they don't really believe it, and they won't work.
So
if you don't believe it,
if you ever like think about the way that an affirmation is said, think about it. You're like, I love myself. I'm wonderful. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I'm at peace. Da, da, da. Do you believe me?
No.
Really. So, but if you start drawing up energy, okay, and you start pumping it up, and the best way to pump it up is to put on some really peppy music and start dancing around. Then you start screaming your affirmations.
Yeah, you want energy with it.
Yeah, find that song, Pharrell Williams, Happy, and start jumping up and down and singing to the song. And then somewhere in the middle of it, you're like, when he's saying to clap, you're like, I am happy, and you scream it. And then you're telling your subconscious mind something completely different. And you're kind of forcing that energy to actually be drawn to you. And your mind is starting to believe it, because you're feeling it. Your mind and your energy and everything around you only believes it if you feel it. So
there's some really good YouTube motivational videos that are made, but you'll notice about all of them, they've got passion, they've got energy. You feel good just listening to them, and you start to, I've listened to them and I'm like, I feel really good after listening to that. I feel really, I could just take on the world.
Well, if you want to transform your stuff, you're more than affirmations, and you're better off just really taking, if you have time to think, then you have time to listen to positive stuff. Okay. And so that's what I usually tell my clients. If you have time to sit there and dwell and think and all this other stuff, then you can sit there and you can input instead of dwelling. Okay. You can start, taking it on, listen to the positive motivational speakers, Tony Robbins or something like that. And really listen to these people. You can also listen to the stuff while you're sleeping. Okay. You can set your YouTube on a rotation, so it just keeps on playing it over and over again, and it'll loop it, and you can listen to it over and over again and set it really low so it's more subliminal, and you're listening while you're sleeping.
So you're not, your conscious mind is not,
Mm-hmm.
your critical mind is not saying, no, this is BS. I don't believe all these words that are coming at me. But if it's subliminal, it bypasses the critical mind.
Right. You hit the nail on the head. Exactly. Because your critical mind is not in that process of thinking. Exactly.
And they did do experiments. The gentleman that was supposed to be having on, which he'd agreed to come on, I need to contact him because he's saying his wife, who does his schedule, he says their internet at the moment, wherever they are, is not up to half for doing videos. I'm really like hoping this will change. But he's created, it's got a whole, it's called Inner Talk. And they went into prisons and played the self-esteem subliminal CD. And they said violence dropped by, I can't remember the percentages.
Really?
Fighting dropped, everything, all these, like the figures for fighting violence, because they had low self-esteem. So they felt like crap. They just fought. And, you know, haven't been in prison, but you see what it's, get an idea of what it's like from programs. It dropped dramatically how they felt about themselves, and the violence dropped dramatically.
So I think part of the thing that she was talking about too was more like protection. Like she was doing affirmations for almost like a protection spell. And so the affirmations aren't necessarily the protection. If you want protection, there's a couple of different things. Okay. You can draw in source. Okay. You can pull source in and spend, 10 or 15 minutes really uploading your energy to where you're at maximum scale. And then you can project it out around you, like creating a bubble. Okay. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they create a bubble around them, but what are they creating the bubble with? That's the question. Like, are you using your own energy? Because that's not protection. Okay. Because your energy is the problem. It's got holes in it.
Yeah, I've always wondered about this because I've found a lot of techniques that are or taught for me don't work.
Well, they don't work because they're not thinking about the fact that this person has holes in their energy, energy field. In the meridian, there's holes. Okay. So, and if you're projecting that out, you're projecting like out something, like when you put an energy field around you, all you're doing is using your own energy to project it out. So you've got to fill the holes first before you're doing that. Some people believe that when they create an energy field around them, they're using source energy, but source energy isn't going to circle around you. You've got to use source energy. You are source. Okay. You are an essence of God. So you literally have to fill your tank back up with who you are. So you've got to take source, fill yourself up, and then project it out. And that becomes your energy bubble. And then, so it's not, the words aren't really what's protecting you. Words are more like a spell. And so if you really want to get into that, then you're probably best actually asking for angelic help and invoking angels, and calling them out by name and asking, if you just can't pull up that energy yourself, you can't pull source into you don't know how, it's not working, blah 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 blah, then use angelic energy to wrap around you. Because when I was injured, my meridian field had holes all in it, and it was difficult for me to pull source back. I didn't have enough energy to pull.
And they do say, my friend Lynn that was on the other day, what day was Lynn on? Last week. Anyway, she reminded me when my dad passed away that grief punches holes in our aura as well. So we become vulnerable. Grief, it doesn't have to be someone dying, but it could be end of a relationship. All these things punch holes in our aura and make us more vulnerable.
So really the reality is that we need to be really refilling our temple daily.
Every day, yeah.
Yeah, we need to be doing that daily. So basically you need to be pulling from source, filling up your temple. That source energy will heal your meridians. If you don't know how to do that, you can call in angelic and invoke angelic energy. I would call on the archangels. I wouldn't use anybody else. That's just my preference because you never know. And so I would call them in and I would do like an angelic healing spell. Like, and I'm using the word spell very loosely because I think that words are spells. So anything that you say is energy, and energy is magic. So if you're using words, then you're going to, you know, just really think it out, write it out. Like think about like, or ask, go into a deep meditation and ask for, you know, a healing prayer and write it down while you're in that state. And you could get some really good prayers that actually come from the angels that could help you. So I only suggest that you pull in outside source if you're too weak. But if you're not too weak, you really need to be pulling source because you need to get in the habit of healing yourself.
Which says that is what I do. I bring in white light of love, then project it out around me to protect me. That's
exactly what you need to do.
That's good. I was thinking about this on the topic of letting go. I was thinking last night, you hear of people just slightly changing. You know, you hear of people saying their husband left them 10 years ago and they're still holding on to 10 years later and they're still talking about what he did to them, how he cheated, they've left. Do you think to me, that is a choice? That person's choosing to hold on. Because I hear this a lot.
Well, you know what I hear?
And men as well, not just women, by the way.
The reason that I hear people saying, when you ask them why they do that, they feel like that if they forgive them, then they're saying it's okay what they did. And I'm like, and I have to explain to them, he's moved on. The only person that's hurting right now is you. So I know. On to this, you're causing yourself. You know, I was listening to Wayne Dyer one day, and he said, nobody ever dies from a snake bite. It's the venom that moves through the system and consumes you, that eats you from the inside out. It spreads.
Yeah.
And so that's what you get. That's what you die from, is the venom. And it's like a cancer. It just, goes everywhere. That's what you're dying from, not the snake bite. So I hear of it so much, and particularly being single, I hear a lot of men still talking. It's so sad because you think this person could have a loving, wonderful relationship in their life or love in their life, but they're still stuck about an ex, or they're focused on their family dramas, and they're missing out on having an amazing relationship in their life. Again, it's I know exactly what you're talking about. I run into people like that all the time. And it's like, at what point, so you have to sit there and, it's like, well, how long are you going to do this? Because as long as you're doing this, we can't move forward. Like people come into me and they're like wanting all this work done. And I'm like, I can't do anything until you let go, because nothing's going to work as long as you keep on bringing that back up again. You keep on bringing it back up. Like, that's done, over with, gone. It's in the past. The past is dead. Okay. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and Robin's brought up a good point. People that grieve do that too. They just cannot let go. Yeah, and that's something I've thought about, like with my dad. It was 3 years at Christmas, but I hear people that have lost, and don't get me wrong, when it's parents. My aunt passed away on Friday, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I didn't shed one tear because I wasn't close to her, because she pushed us away many years ago. Now, if it had been my other aunt, my cousin's mum, I'd have been devastated because, I love her to bits and I'm really close. But I didn't shed one tear. It's sad. She's nearly 90, or would have been 90 this month. She had a long life. I can still get tearful about my dad, but then I hear people 20, 30 years on are still grieving like it was yesterday. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you think, well, yes,
what's the difference between grieving and just being sad? Like with you, for instance, when you did that reading with Patrick and you were crying, does that mean that you're grieving? I don't think that you're grieving. I think it was like a beautiful experience of being able to like experience your dad saying, I love you, you know, and.
Yeah, because I don't sit every day crying like, oh, I wish he was back. I don't stay stuck in that. And that was something people in my family thought I was heartless because I wasn't crying all the time. I wasn't grieving like you're supposed to grieve. But it didn't mean that I didn't care. I just felt a sense of peace, actually, because I felt he was at peace, and I felt that I knew the moment he pretty much passed away, I could feel the peace. And doing it, I don't care. But I think some people choose to stay stuck in that grief. It must be serving them, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, because I think it must be serving them in some way, but it's ruining their life in a way, isn't it?
I agree. I was telling my mom that in her funeral that I was going to get like a choir, and they were going to like, you know, be like clapping and doing this stuff and singing When the Saints Come Rolling In. And she's like, you're going to have, you know, a choir at my funeral dancing? Like, you know? And I'm like, yeah, because you're like a saint. So, you know, and she, it was funny. I think I actually upset her because I think she's thinking that we should be like, you know, like everybody crying and stuff.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, Mom, God's going to come down and he's going to greet you personally and shake your hand. You know, it's like, you know, now I don't believe in the God on the throne, but she does. And so I talk to her metaphorically the same way that she believes. So I'm like, he's going to come all the way to the pearly gates and greet you personally because you're such a good person.
Isn't it in China or something where they celebrate death?
Yeah, so
it's the opposite way around in China. They celebrate death.
Well, I know, and that's what I was trying to tell her. And so then I sent because what happened was I was watching the show, and this guy actually did a funeral. He couldn't figure out what to say, so he actually hired a choir and did the. And so I actually took my phone and videoed that scene, and they're like clapping and singing and doing all this stuff. And so I sent it to my mom, you know, and she's all like, "Well, I don't know about that, Michelle," you know. And so I sent it.
Actually, knowing what you've told me, that is, it's not funny, haha. But knowing what Michelle's told me about her mom, that would be a worst nightmare.
It would be. And so it's like you know, I like to kind of yank her chain a little every so often. So, you know, I was definitely yanking her chain. Anyway, so I sent
I'm not crying, by the way. I'm laughing. It's like tears with laughter.
That's okay. So I sent the video to my daughter. Okay. And I sent the video. Okay. And so she was like, okay, this is what you want. Because I told her, I said, this is the kind of funeral I want. So I need you to remember this and save this video. And she's like, okay. And, you know, and it was like, so it was all black choir. And she said, do you want a black choir or do you want it to be all mixed? And I was like, I don't care who's in it, just everybody needs to be singing like this. And she goes, now do you want cornbread and hot chicken? And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. And she was just like shaking her head and laughing, you know, going, you were so silly. And I go, I know, but this is what I want. I really do want this.
You don't want everyone to be so sad on the day, because this is stereotypically, I mean, I could be eating my words. If anything happened to my son, that would probably be a whole different story. But that would be a huge test in life, and I don't want to bring that about. But like Robin, was it Ellie Mack says, it served Queen Victoria. Look how she grieved. she wore black for the rest of her life, didn't she? I believe Queen Victoria did.
Oh my goodness. Iowa says funeral strippers.
Well, in China they celebrate death, and I think
but funeral strippers?
I don't know about the strippers part. You never know with them. It's probably his sense of humor, but they do celebrate the passing more than they're happy when someone's passed.
Well, I tell you what,
Apparently.
you know, if my mom does watch the whole thing, you know, if she is up there when she dies and she's actually watching from heaven, I'm going to give her a sister act choir performance at her funeral. And she says, I will probably shake that church. And I said, well, good, Mom. I said, that'll be fun because then we're also going to get like a ghost experience and everybody's going to like, you know. She's like, oh, Michelle.
Freak them out. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's funny. So anyway, got a little off track again.
Well, it was sort of about letting go because it's bugged me for a while where I hear people 10 years later still playing the victim. Not about death here because that is not probably. It's very final when someone passes, but when someone's just their marriage has broke down and 10 years later they're still playing the victim, to me that's got to be serving them in some way, because not in a good way, but they're still blaming the ex 10 years later, and I find it really sad, especially if it's a guy. Say if I meet a guy, not so much now, but a few years ago, I was with someone and he still was going on about his ex-wife, what she'd done to him, and it's total passion killer. Because they're clearly not let go.
I've met so many people like that, and it's, you know, the bottom line is you got to ask them why they're still holding on to this, and you know, and just help them understand, you know, that it's not serving them. I mean, they think by doing this, they really think that they're punishing the other person, but the other person is not being punished.
No,
they've already moved on. You know, they're not thinking, you know, well, I'm hurting because you're upset. No, they don't care. And there's, you know, so like people like, oh, well, I'll never forgive him. Well, the thing is by you not forgiving, you're actually causing you the pain inside of you. The forgiveness for others is actually forgiving for yourself. It's really just a form of release. You know, it's about, you know, it's about that letting go thing, you know, because if you don't forgive, you're not letting go. And then you're holding on to it and it festers and you get cancer or what's the big one that most people get is like chronic fatigue or what's that? Fibromyalgia. Both of those two diseases are caused from being tormented by pain. I mean, emotional pain. I have never known anybody who has either one of those things that weren't tormented by some emotional pain that was inflicted upon them that they held on to. Yeah.
Because I test myself sometimes and I'll think about things, say, to do with my ex-husband, and I know I like most of it, like I would say I'm cool with, you know, because when he got married, like I bought him and his wife a wedding present from, I'm just using these examples, I don't normally talk about this. I made sure I paid for a present for them from my son. Mm-hmm. Most women wouldn't have done that with knowing the things he did. But I was actually really happy for them. People thought I was crazy.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're saying.
You know, with some of the, you know, extreme things that happened. But I was actually, and when they had a little girl, what was it, January, I just said, I wish all the best because I think she was in labour. I wish all the best for mother and baby, and I hope everything, and I genuinely meant it. And I was really pleased for them that I'd had a baby girl. I just know so many people.
I think that the bottom line is that, you know, if you can figure out a way to get it, you know, understand it from somebody else's perspective, you know, it's this there's this whole selfless thing that happens with us. I mean, not selfless, sorry, selfish. This is selfish thing that we do when we're playing the victim. Okay. When you're playing the victim, you're being very, very self-centered. It's about my hurt, my feelings, my pain, my this, and you're not taking into consideration why the other person is doing what they're doing, why they have behaved that way. You know, I mean, even people that cheat. Okay.
And that's what I did. I went into I know what's happened to him in the past. I know why he's this angry. It made it a bit easier for me, because if you don't know somebody's past and they might have had a real traumatic abuse, you know, it doesn't make it right, but they may have had the most horrendous childhood. And it's probably a wonder that they're actually still sane and living, let alone, you know, functioning and got a good job and married. Because there are people that have gone through less that, you know, aren't functioning in the world. And it just makes you think sometimes what some people have been through. I think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could be so sane knowing what they've been through. And but at the time I didn't think like that, obviously, you know, but now I can sit back and I've let most of it. I think I probably let most of it go that I can think of.
Well, that's good. That's really good. Like I said, it's just the thing is that even with people that cheat, okay, you know, you don't know the reason why they're behaving the way they are. Like, I know people who say they would never, ever, ever cheat, and then they do. And because you know, females, because their husband is, you know, got a lot of problems and, you know, did too many drugs or drank too much alcohol or whatever, and wasn't giving them the emotional needs that they needed, and became, you know, ED, you know, erectile dysfunction, right? And until they eventually kind of go that direction. I know people that have been married for a long time and the love will left the relationship, and the female just stopped having sex with the guy, you know, for whatever reason. And 5-10 years later, you know, he ends up having an affair and she's devastated. Like, so I'm not saying that that's okay, but I also know, I know of an experience that I had where I was with somebody who cheated on me, and he had a sexual issue that was created at a very young age, and it was like a sexual addiction, and so that was problematic. So he couldn't seem to get it like worked through in his head. So sometimes I mean, sometimes there's multiple things that cause people to do what they do. And
you know, the best way that I get over, if you meet someone, I know you're married, but if you're single, you're dating and it's not working out, the best way I get over it is, it's not meant for me. You know, don't try and make something work that isn't hell. You could have just dodged the biggest bullet by letting it go. You know?
I know. And you know, the guy that I dated before Shane ended up becoming a polygamist. Okay. And then he had these 2 girls for a while, and he ended up, you know, it was like, I started timing it, and he was like, they were lasting like a year, 6 months to a year was the max amount of time. It was like a timeline. And once he got a second girl in, like, he was keeping people approximately 6 months. And then, but when he got a second girl in, they were lasting a year. And then he'd rotate out another one and bring somebody else in. And I mean, he said to me, you know, when we were dating, I was like, I'm not going to have you develop a relationship with another girl. And he's like, well, I'm not the kind that just goes and screws them and leaves them. And I'm like, so he'll like develop a relationship with somebody and then dump them later because they don't, they don't serve his purpose anymore. I mean, like what's worse? And so, but the thing is that he's developed something that works for him. And, and the thing is that I can't hold any grudges because he's doing it to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is not about me.
That's his choice.
And sometimes that's a way to let go of something too, is to realize that the other person it's not about you.
Personal.
You're trying to make yourself into being the big old victim, like, hey, this is all of, this person hurt me, and it's not about you. Most of the time it's them. And
a great book I always recommend is The Four Agreements.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the agreements is that it's, isn't it? I should know these off by heart after all this time. I think one of them is it's never, it's never about you. It's the other person's stuff. I should know these off by heart. You can usually Google them and you'll get a chart with them up. But I'm pretty sure that one of the agreements is not to take anything personally is one of them. Mm-hmm. See if you can get it up, Michelle.
That's what I'm going to do right now.
It's a really handy little book, and I should read it more often because I have got it. But I think it's good to dip into it again because you can get off track. Things happen. It's a good reminder to don't take anything personally. Is one of them, which we easily do, because really, when you read the book, it's the other person. They're reacting from their self. It's not personal. It's their stuff. Same with you. It's your stuff.
So I'm finding the book.
Often there'll be little pictures they're often posted on Facebook, but it's typical when you want
one.
one.
I see it.
Have you got
one? Yeah. Okay.
Obviously in the book it goes into more detail, but there's usually like a sample of the four. Although now they're saying they've got more books out now. Yeah. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions and always do your best.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's little bits under that. I mean,
so it just shared that screen. And there's a breakdown of it like right here or like this right here where it kind of helps you see this one.
So this one about don't make assumptions, that's got to be one of the biggest I see, and I've done it, but it's been done to me a lot and it's caused a lot of trouble. They've assumed something that isn't even real.
Mm-hmm.
We all do it.
Actually, this is actually really good. This is actually really good.
I always recommend that book to clients if they haven't already got it. I mean, they have got other books in the series since, but this one is like a great one to keep in your handbag. It's not or if you're a guy, it's not a very big book.
Okay, you guys. So it's called The Four Agreements, and this is actually a really good book. And it's written by Don Miguel
Ruiz. I'm probably butchering the surname, but Ruiz.
I'm butchering it too. And Janet Mills. Okay, so you can get the ebook. It's on Google Play. It's also on Amazon as well and Audible.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you want to.
And they've written other books since, but this one I highly recommend. If you can just embody this, it will save you so much. You'd just be in such a good place if you can embody these four agreements.
So I think that's a really good idea. So I think that kind of tallies it up. Are you, unless you have something else that you want to add to this? You have anything else?
Covered a lot. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. I mean, I think we've covered a lot about letting go and how to let go. I think sort of knowing that you've let go is when you don't have that emotional charge. whatever it is. Like, say, that thing that triggered me, I knew I was being triggered. There might be another time someone does that and I won't bat an eyelid, and I'll take it. I'll not bat an eyelid. It probably won't have that charge where I'll get so angry. It made me quite sick the next day. But I couldn't help it. It whooshed up.
I mean, I told you, the same thing happened to me. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Before, I guess, like after we leave or something like that, I'm gonna need you to help me too, because that same icon, I thought I changed it in Zoom. It's coming up as being Spiritual Journey by Michelle Thompson. That's what it's showing instead of Michelle and Trish. So I'm not sure where that's at, if that's in YouTube or if it's in, I just saw that when I was pulling this
in YouTube. What will happen, say if I went live through Zoom and I didn't set up a scheduled appointment in YouTube as well, it will take the last thumbnail I used from the last live. So when I went live with Lynn the other day, then I went live again on Zoom, but I didn't schedule it on YouTube. I was live, but it showed Lynn's thumbnail when I wasn't even talking to Lynn. So that's happened to me a few times.
Okay. Well, that's annoying.
It's a bit of a pain. You have to schedule the live through YouTube as well. It'll keep using, and then you can.
So I've never done that before, so I guess that's something you can help me with.
Yeah, sure.
So, all right, you guys, we're going to tally it up. It's already been 2 hours, so this has actually been a lot of information that we've covered, and I really appreciate everybody that actually got to stay in. I noticed we lost a lot of people. I know that there's a lot
There's a lot of people live tonight.
Mm-hmm. So
in similar circles.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. Really appreciate it. One of the things that Trisha and I do is we really try to kind of keep it very authentic and sharing our experiences and letting you know that we're real people experiencing these things, and and we're learning and growing, and as we're doing this, we're just sharing the information and helping you guys as much as we can.
Yeah, so if there's any topics that you want us to cover, remember that you can leave the comments after. Sometimes we don't decide until the day or the night before, but it depends what happens in the week. Things tend to crop up, which are a really good topic.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we'll be back on my channel next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
definitely. Okay, I guess even in the description, it didn't put the stuff that I typed in. So
yeah, that's because if you haven't set a scheduled live on YouTube, it will use the last one.
Okay.
I found that out the hard way. I was live and somebody thought I was live with Misha Johnston because that happened, and he was like, "Why didn't you reply to my email?" I said, "She's not even here tonight."
I didn't even know that. I've never done a scheduled thing on YouTube, so I didn't know that I thought you just scheduled it on Zoom.
Yeah, what it does is if you schedule it on YouTube, you can ask it to send out a reminder an hour before, a day before, a week before to your subscribers as well.
Huh.
So that's okay. A little extra.
All right. Well, I guess I'll figure that out later. Okay, you guys, y'all have a fabulous day. And
thank you to everybody for tuning in. My left ear is now ringing already.
Okay, so wait, do I stop the live stream?
Yeah, don't press leave meeting. Like,
okay.
I did that. We both did.
Okay, you guys, have a good evening. Bye.